So this is the columns game. I'm calling it the columns game, and you'll see why. It's just a bit of an unusual demolition of black's structure. Almost in the traditional, like blowing up two chimneys right up the middle of the board. You'll see. Starts out innocently enough. Here, opposing knight, so clearly he's telling me that he doesn't want me to be advancing. Again, he's telling me he doesn't want my knight to advance onto that g5 square. He's trying to build a barricade of sorts. So an early attack is probably going to mess with his mind. And so my white bishop's fairly forward, and it's pushed even further forward by the pawns than it can't retreat too far unless he really retreats right back to his original square or somewhere useless. So I really am. I'm pushing forward, really quite committal. And again, he's trying to get a phalanx going rather than anything attacky.
Kingside castle in.
So getting the early kingside castle to get myself ready for continuing the attack. And he grabs this pawn.
Castle in.
Admittedly, as soon as that knight came out there, I probably should have done that. I didn't. I just overlooked it in my haste to develop pieces for my big quick attack.
Kingside castle in.
He grabs the pawn, but he wasted 2 moves grabbing that pawn, and I'm actually not in bad shape at all now.
Check.
So I just decided this was the point where I just thought, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? He hasn't castled yet. He can't castle. Let's just crack it open with the bishop's sacrifice that I would normally be trying to win his queen with, if his knight were not on c6, and if I'd already cracked open some of those pawns in the middle. You can sometimes get the king to stop, to move away from minding the queen here with another, with another sacrifice. With the sacrifice here, the pawn. But that wasn't the idea. The idea was simply to strip away and hopefully eventually get my queen up to be checking on h5.
Check.
And that was about as far as I saw was there. And of course we still haven't shifted the damn knight. So out comes my knight. It sort of was a semi-failure actually in my head. I thought I'm going to have to shift this knight, otherwise I can't do the queen checking I want to do. And then suddenly he brings out this piece, which I don't think was the right move in the least. Because now I'm sort of forcing the exchange of the knights, but he didn't go for it. He just brought out more artillery, so I think he was panicking. And then this. And of course he hasn't got his king to safety yet, has he? He's bringing out pieces instead of getting his damn king to safety. Really, something better would have been something like that. Or even that, with a view to moving his king into safety afterwards. So, out comes this bishop, and then all I have to do is this. And yes, you can take my knight, but this is a revealed check.
Check.
And now I can still grab that knight, and now I'm only 1 piece down, but I'm a pawn up, and it's a passed pawn, and I've got 2 files like towers imprisoning your king, like bars of a cell. You've got to exchange queens. But he doesn't. Instead, he's too worried about my pawn there. And I felt that definitely, my bullying had succeeded at this point because he was too scared to exchange queens. So, move my queen onto this looked like I was just trying to get my queen away from potential rook. But actually, I was getting onto the black square so I could check his king. So I love deceptive moves like that. Moves that allow you to look like you're doing one thing when you're actually doing another. Then the rook comes, and he wants an exchange of rooks. I do not know why, because it's insane. Because looking at things the way they are, his king can easily be pulled away from that rook. And that's exactly what happens. As soon as his rook moved to that square, I thought, yep, that rook is vulnerable if his king tries to escape to the back. it'll no longer be defended by him. But equally, if his king doesn't escape to the back and comes out into the open, well, then his king will be in very bad shape, especially with that forward pawn and all the other pawns that I could advance on his position. So it looks like that rook could well fall.
Check.
And they're marking it. Now he can't do this because of that.
Check. Check.
So, and now my queen and my rook are both eyeing that. Now I suppose I could have just done that on the next move, and that would have won me that rook. Like that, but it's a bit dull, isn't it?
Check.
So instead,
Check.
whoa,
Check.
put up the other tower, the other bar, the other demolition tower. These are my demolition towers, my towers of destruction on these empty files. I haven't even taken my eye off that passed pawn yet. It's still protected. And of course, after this move, I now have a choice of checkmates. I could either use the queen or the rook
Checkmate.
to capture here. And we've got these two towers of destruction with fireworks on the top from the queen. And that's just a very pretty little checkmate.